Hello and welcome once more to another video on my YouTube channel. Now, if you are new, please kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that whenever I drop new content, you will be the first to be notified. In today's lesson, we are going to discuss about equality. Basically, this is for beginners and for everybody actually. Basically for beginners. Now we are going to discuss our first lesson on algebra. Equalities. What are equalities? Equalities they are basically mathematical statements that contain the equal to sign. Yeah, the equal to sign. Any statement that contains this is an equality. Any mathematical statement with the equal to sign is an equality. Now, for instance, I might have something like 2x minus 1 equals to 0. This is basically an equality. Equalities are otherwise known as equations. Any symbol containing any statement containing this symbol is called an equality. Now, the basic rules of equality will help us to solve equation, and that's what we are going to be discussing in this lesson now. The addition, we are going to discuss the four different rules of solving equations or equality, the basic rules of equality. The first one, we have the addition rule. The addition rule is saying that whenever we have two things being equal, if we add the same quantity on both sides of the equality or equation, it remains unchanged. So this is what it's saying, that if we have two things which are equal for the addition rule, right? Let's say A is equals to B. If I add the same quantity on both sides of the equation or equality, it does not change the mathematical statement. So this is basically what you'll be using when solving equation. So follow up strictly. So if I add C on both sides, the same thing on both sides of the equation, it remains virtually unchanged. So for instance, if I add say C on both sides of this equation, I'm going to have A plus C equals to what? B plus C. So I've added the same quantity on both sides of the equation or equality. So this is what the addition uh, uh, rule of equality is saying. Adding the same quantity on both sides of the equality leaves that mathematical statement unchanged. For instance, if we say 2 is equals to 2, right? 2, right? So if I add say 1 on both sides of the equation, are you going to see that we have 2 plus 1 equals to 2 plus 1? You see that we have added the same quantity. We have added 1 on both sides of the equation. Is 2 plus 1 equals to 2 plus 1? Of course, because we have 3 which is equals to what? 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. So you see that I have added 1 on both sides of the equation for 2 equals 2. It leaves that equation virtually unchanged. So it remains an equality. The equal to sign is not affected. Now, that is basically what the addition rule is talking about. Let's look at the subtraction rule. The subtraction rule, it says that if you subtract the same quantity on both sides of an equality, it leaves that it does not affect the equal to sign. It leaves that mathematical statement unchanged. So basically, see if A is equals to B, right? If I subtract say the same number on both sides of the equation, it might be a variable or a constant. If I subtract it from both sides of the equation, it leaves that equality virtually unchanged. So if I have A minus C, I'm subtracting C from both sides. C is the same thing. right, on both sides of the equation. I have subtracted the same quantity which is C on both sides of the equation. So it remains virtually unchanged. The two quantities will remain equal. So if I have 2 equals to 2, right, this is an equality because it contains the equal to sign or an equation, right? So if I simply subtract say 1 from both sides of the equation, when you are doing it, you do it on both sides of the equation because that's what the rules are talking are saying actually. So you have 2 minus 1 equals 2 minus 1. I've subtracted 1 from both sides of this equality. So it means that 1 remains equal to 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 minus 1 is equals to 1. Is 1 equals to 1? Of course, that's a true statement. They are equal now. They are the same thing. Now, let's go to the multiplication rule for equalities. The multiplication rule says that if you have two things being equal, A is equals to B, right? If I add the same quantity, if I multiply the same quantity on both sides of the equation, it leaves that equation unchanged. So if I have it like this, if I multiply a number, say k, right, on both sides of this equation, I'm going to have A times k equals to B times k. Now, in algebra, right, when two things are multiplied like this, if they are not numbers, right, if one is a variable and one is a constant, if they are not number, A times C, A times K can just be written as AK, right? Means whenever I see for instance, whenever I see something like 2x, for instance, in algebra, it means 2 times x. So you can simply rewrite this without showing the multiplication symbol, right? So I will just write AK to mean A times K. Whenever they are written join there like that, it means multiplication. So for instance, but if I have something like 23, right, I cannot say that this is 2 times 3 unless there is a bracket like that. Yeah, brackets are used to indicate multiplication when it involves just two numbers, or you can see it like this, 2 times 3, or in this form they mean multiplication. But if I just have a double number like this, yeah, if I have a double number like this, it will represent that number like that. It does not mean multiplication in any sense. So this is basically what I have, equals to what? BK. So that is what the multiplication rule of equality is saying. So basically, if I have, for instance, let's consider this. If I have, let's say 2 equals to 2, let's work on this our equal quantity here. Or let's take something variable. Let's say if I have ax plus 2 is equals to, no, let's work on what we had. If I have 2 equals to 2, right? If I multiply the same thing on both sides of the equation, it remains virtually unchanged. That's what the multiplication rule of equality is saying. So if I multiply, let's say, if I multiply maybe x on both sides of the equation, I'll have 2 times x equals to what? 2 times x. Now, 2 times x can just be written as 2x. Like I just said, whenever you are multiplying a number to a variable, you can simply write them jointed like that to mean multiplication. That is how it is written in algebra. Now, 2 times x is still 2x. You see that 2x is equal to 2x. This statement is correct, right? Because the left hand side is equal to what? The right hand side. That's basically what the multiplication rule of equality is talking about. Now let's clean this up and talk more on the division now. The division rule of equality says if you have two things being equal, right? If I divide both sides of the equality by the same quantity, it leaves that equation virtually unchanged. So for instance, if I divide by k on both sides of the equation, right? the same quantity, you divide it on both sides of the equation, it leaves that equation virtually unchanged. So this is what we have. When you have it like this, that's how the division rule is being applied. For instance, if I have 2 equals to 2, this is an equality, right? Because it contains the equal to sign. If I divide both sides by, let's say, 2, I'll have 2 divided by 2 equals to 2 divided by 2. When you are doing the division, you do it on both sides of the equality. From here, 2 divided by 2 is 1, right? Equals to what? 2 divided by 2 is 1. So you see that 1 is equals to 1. The property of equality has no effect on the equation. So basically, we have seen these properties now. Now let's discuss more on how you can use this to solve equation. How you can use this to solve equation. Let me just rewrite that. We'll discuss we'll discuss the rules one after another. Now let's start with the addition rule. How can you use it uh, to solve for an equation, right? This is what the addition rule helps you to do. In adding both, if you have an equality, you add the same quantity on both sides of that equality. We say it leaves that equation virtually unchanged, right? So this is the addition rule and the subtraction rule we treated at once. Let's look at. So the addition and subtraction rule helps you to move terms on both sides of the equation. For instance, if I have ax plus b equals to, let's say, 2, for instance, that is an equality, right? If I want to remove, if I want to make ax the subject, it means I'll have to remove b from this side, right? If I want to remove b from this side, I'm going to do what? Look at how it goes. For the, let me take this for instance. Let's say we have ax minus b equals to 2, right? If I want to remove this term from, if I want to remove this term from this left hand side to the right hand side, this term, this negative b, right? Using the addition rule of equality, I'm going to add whenever the symbol, that the term you want to move, right? We want to move the term to the other side of the equation. Whenever the symbol is, whenever the term is negative, right? You add the same quantity. That's, you add the corresponding positive term. That's why addition rule and subtraction rule go together when you are solving equation. So since I have negative b here, right? I'm going to add the corresponding number on both sides of the equation. So I have ax minus b plus b equals to what? 2 plus b. Now, since negative b plus b is 0, is the same as b minus b. So if whenever you talk of a negative number, right, just take it that you are owing something. When you have positive number, you say you are having something. So if I owe 2 things plus negative 2 plus 2 is 0. If I owe 2 things, take negative as you are owing, then I have 2 things. If I pay my debt, I will be left with nothing, right? So this one represents nothing. That is virtually what it means. So in that, negative b means you owe b things and you have b things. Now when you pay your debt, you are going to get this thing to be 0. At the end, you are left with ax, right, equals to what? 2 plus b. That is how you move a term on one side of the equation, and that's how it goes. Now, for the subtraction rule, right, let's copy this and see how it works. The subtraction rule is saying that if I want to move a term on on the equation, right? If the term I want to move on the equation is positive, I'm going to subtract both sides of the equation by that quantity. That's why I say addition rule and subtraction rule go together. So if I have this equality, if I want to move this term to the other side of the equation, I'm going to, since it is positive here, right? I'm going to use what? Subtraction. I will subtract it from both sides of the equation. So I have ax minus b. Since I'm subtracting on both sides, I maintain the equality sign. I copy what I have, then minus b. I've just subtracted b from both sides of the equation. So I have ax minus b is equals to what? 2. Because b minus b is 0. If you have two things and you owe two things, at the end you have nothing, right? That's why 2 plus 0 is 0 is 2. So that is how it works. You see that we have returned back to the original equation, right? So addition and subtraction rule helps you to move terms on both sides on both sides of the equation. So that's how the addition and subtraction rule helps you in solving equation. For instance, you might be solving a simultaneous equation. Let's say 2x plus y minus equals to say maybe 3. Then x minus y equals to 4. We are going to discuss how to solve this type of equation, right? Because we said that in solving this, we will normally use different methods. We are going to discuss how to solve this. For instance, let's say we had just this equation and we are interested in making y to stand alone, making y the subject of the formula. It means that since 2x is added to it, right, whenever a number or a variable is not written with a sign, it is considered to be a positive number. So if I want to make the y to stand alone on this side, right, it means I'll have to transfer or move 2x to the other side of the equation. Now, since I'm moving terms on both sides of the equation, I'm going to use the addition and subtraction rule of equality. Since I want my term is 2x, 2x without a sign is considered positive. So since it is positive, I'm going to use subtraction, right? You use the opposite rule to move the term now. Since here is positive 2x, I'm going to do what? Subtract 2x on both sides of the equality. So I've subtracted 2x from both sides of the equality. You copy this minus 2x equals to 3 minus 2x. You have done it on both sides of the equality. Now 2x minus 2x is virtually nothing, right? You have two things and you owe two things. At the end you have nothing. So I have y equals to what? 3 minus 2x. So that is how it works. You use it to move terms on both sides of the equation. Let's say let's say here was let's say here was negative and I wanted to make the 2x the subject. We go like this. Since here is negative, my term I want to move is negative, right? So I'm going to add the add. So addition, whenever you see addition, you do subtraction. That's how it goes. And when you see subtraction, you do addition. So since it's negative y, I'm going to do what? I'm going to apply the word addition property of equality. I add the same quantity on both sides of the equation. Since I want to make 2x the subject, means I want to make it to stand alone on the left hand side. So this term negative y plus y is virtually nothing. Like I said, you owe y things and you have y things. When you pay your debt, you have nothing left with you. So I have 2x equals to 3 plus y. That is virtually what I mean by you are owing, right? It's minus. And when you have, it's positive. So if I owe 2,000 and I have 2,000 in my bank account, means I have to pay my debt. If I'm actually a serious person, a serious businessman, I have to pay my debt And when I pay my debt, when I pay that 2,000 franc, I will be left with nothing in my bank account. So that is virtually what it means. It means I have nothing left. So when we are solving equations, keep it in mind, negative means you are owing and positive means you have. Okay, that is how we apply the addition and subtraction rules of equalities, virtually to move terms on both sides of the equation. Now let's discuss the division rule and multiplication rule. So take note, addition you subtract, subtraction you add. Keep it in mind. So we use it to move terms on both sides of the equation. Now let's discuss the multiplication rule. The multiplication rule and division, the division rule of equalities. Now, when you are doing the multiplication rule, right, the multiplication rule helps you to make a variable term the subject. For instance, let's say if I have 3x equals to 3x equals to 4. If I want to make x the subject to stand alone, like I said, 3x means it's 3 times x, right? 3 times x, 3 times x. So let's begin from here. Let's say I had 3 divided by x. I mean x divided by 3 equals to 4. This is a fraction. This is 4, right? If I want to make apply the multiplication rule of equality, right? Whenever the variable you want to make the subject or you want to solve for that equation is divided by something, you instead multiply. So division, right, goes with multiplication. Whenever you see division, you do multiplication. Since I have here 3x, 3 divided by, I mean x divided by 3, right? I'm going to do what? Multiply both sides by 3. That's how you apply the rule. So I have 3 times, when you see a dot in mathematics, right, it represents multiplication. 3 times what? X over 3 equals to what? 4 times, I mean, yeah, 4 times 3. Because I'm multiplying it on both sides of the equation, the quantity that is divided by. Whenever you see it in any equality, right, that's how you clear all fractions in solving. So 3 goes with 3 one time. So 3 times 1 just gives x times 1 is just x. So this is like 1x, 1 times x equals to what? 12. So you see how that's how you use the multiplication rule of equality. So let's give a general form for that. So if I have ax, or let's say a over a on that equals, let's say y over b equals to c. If I want to solve this one, I have to clear this fraction using multiplication rule of equality. Whenever you see division, you do multiplication. So since here is divided by a, right, I will multiply all through by what? By a. So I have a times x over what? A plus a times y over b times equals to what? C times a. Now that is all what it says. You have done what? Multiply both sides of the equation by the same quantity. According to the multiplication rule, it remains unchanged. So this one goes hope you are left with what? X plus a y over what? B equals to what? C a, right? Now the next thing, we have to clear this fraction off, right? How do we do it? Since it's divided by b, I'm going to multiply all through by what? By b. So I'm going to have bx, that's b times x, right? B times x plus b times what? B times ay divided by b I'm multiplying both sides of the equality by the same quantity. My quantity here is b. Since it's divided by b, I do what? Multiply both sides by b. When you see division, you do multiplication. So this one will give what? Ca times b. Now b times x is just bx. Yeah, that's what it means. Rather than writing b times x, you rather write it jointed like that. That's what it means in algebra when you see it like that. Now b divided by b is 0. I mean 1, sorry. 1 times is just, you are just left with what? Ay equals what? Ca times this is just cab. Now this one you can also write it as abc. It's still multiplication. It means c times a times b. You just write it jointed rather than writing c times a times b. Understood? Yeah. That's how you use the multiplication rule to clear all fractions while solving equations. I hope it's clear. We are going to do this in our next tutorial. Yeah, we'll see how we can use this to solve linear equations. Now, the division rule of equality, right? If you have a variable attached, let's say a number or a variable attached to the quantity you want to make a subject, right? You do division. Yeah. When you see multiplication, you do division. Let's say I have this equation. Let's say I have this equation, right? And I want to make x the subject of the formula. First of all, I want to make x to stand alone. That nothing should be attached to x. This is what I'll do. Since 3 is attached to y, to x, I'm going to do what? Whenever I see division, I do multiplication. So 3 times x, when I see multiplication, I do what? I do division. Eventually, division and multiplication go in reverse to each other. So I'm going to do what? Divide both sides of the equation all through by 3. Since I want to make this one the subject, it is attached to x, 3 times x. So I'm going to do what? Divide both sides by 3. Since I want to make the x the subject, I just want it to stand alone. So 3 goes with this, giving out x plus y over 3 equals to 4 on 3. You see that x is now standing alone. I can now make this one the subject using what we discussed above. If I want to move terms on both sides of the equation, what do I use? The addition and subtraction rule. Since here is addition, I'm going to do what? Subtraction. I have to move this term to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to have x plus y over 3. That's what I have initially. Minus the y on 3 equals to, I have 4 on 3 here minus y over 3. So according to subtraction rule, when we subtract the same quantity on both sides of the equality, it leaves that equation unchanged. So I'm going to have x, y on 3 minus y on 3 is virtually nothing. When you have one thing and you give out that one thing, you have 0, right? Equals to what? 4 on 3 minus y over 3. This one can equally be written as 4 minus y divided by 3. Virtually, this subtraction of two fractions with a common denominator. That's what it means. So we have gone through the rules of equality. I hope it helped you in one way or the other. We are going to see how this one can be used in solving equations, linear equations, quadratics, and all the like, inequalities. You use all these properties when solving that, and we are going to discuss that in our next tutorial. So if you like the lesson, please drop your likes and dislike on the comment section. And thanks for watching. If you are new to this, please kindly subscribe and hit on the notification bell, please. And equally, drop your comments on this video your likes about this video, because I know you must have learned something new from it. Thanks for watching. See you guys in my next tutorial. Bye bye.